The other story I wanted to get to is what seems to be a propaganda campaign aimed at creating divisions between Iran and Russia.
Yeah.
Now, I saw this during the war. I saw this after the war. There was talk about, oh, the Russians didn't give them the S-400s. The Russians didn't give them the fighters. There was that part that kind of seems the way where it started. Now it has morphed into Iran has been closer to China. Iran is going to get Chinese weapons because they couldn't get them from the Russians. And the Russians are unreliable. The Russians can't be depended upon. And even going as far as saying now that Russia backs Trump's proposal and wants Ukraine to give up enrichment. Now, I saw that story. I say BS. As soon as I saw that story, I was like, okay, that's nonsense. I don't buy that story.
But sources in Axios said it's true, Jamarl. Which sources
in Axios?
But sources
a lot of
familiar with the matter. Axios.
Right. Right. The great journalistic body of Axios has said it's true. I am highly skeptical of that story. Now, the Russian ministry has come out and said this is nonsense. They very strongly said this is nonsense. This is, for one, who the hell is their source that's close to Russia? We don't even buy that their source is close to Russia in this.
They didn't even say that. They just said sources familiar with the matter.
Those are sources coming out of the Trump administration that is throwing chum into the water. That's what that is.
Yeah.
But give me your take on this. What's going on with this? Do you think this is some kind of orchestrated media campaign to drive a wedge between Russia and Iran? And by the way, I want to hit on something on this, because on some level, it's a vacuum that has been left that Donald Trump is filling with this nonsense. But give me your take on this first.
Yeah. I was actually asked this just right when I was, it had just been breaking. And Nima asked me this on his show this weekend. And I was
cheating
like,
on me? What? Cheating on me?
What?
Cheating on me? You bastard. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
How many other interviews do you have today, Jamarl? I thought we had a polyamorous thing going here.
No, I'm teasing. I'm sorry. But please, go ahead.
Yeah. He asked me about it. I'm right away. I'm like this. First of all, sources. Second of all, Axios, which has been a regular piece of. Occasionally they have good leaks, or not. I shouldn't say leaks, because anytime it's a leak, it's an intentional leak, right?
Yes.
But they also have been the source of a lot of quite obvious intentional disinformation that has no reality, and that was. That is something that, in particular, we've seen with how many Russia is about ready to sign a ceasefire. And we heard reports that Gerasimov was talking to Zaluzhny, and all of these other ridiculous stories that have come out that prove to have no truth. And we're, once again, this type of muddying the waters with often unclear motivations. But yeah, I agree with you. I detect that certainly part of the rationale is doing what they can to sow distrust between Russia and Iran. Always between Russia and China too, but they haven't been very effective in that. But there still is obviously distrust between Russia and Iran, right? And we've seen that, when, at least according to Putin, and I've not heard any Iranian official who ever challenged this, that Russia, in their strategic partnership that they just signed, that they just came into effect with Iran, that Russia had offered them a mutual defense pact and had offered them air defense cooperation, like very intensive air defense cooperation, and that Iran had mistrusted or had not trusted. And, there are historical reasons for this. In around 2010, when Medvedev was president for Russia, and Russia was flirting with improving relations naively with the West, which I was against at the time, that they withheld a contract where Russia was to deliver S-300s to Iran. And that contract was held up for years to please the West, or to curry favor, to placate, to appease the West. And I said at the time that was a huge mistake. And, here we are now. And Iran, you could say, yes, historically they have good reason to mistrust, even within, the living memory, the leadership that in one form or another is still, in power in Russia, because Putin was prime minister at the time.
Right.
So that, was a mistake. It was now Iran under Pezeshkian was making the same mistake, right? Now we don't want a military align with Russia. First of all, we historically have reasons for not trusting them, but we want to improve relations with the West. Again, the naive the belief that you could appease the hegemon. And that led to very near disaster, right? We've heard that not only did they make the decapitation strike that targeted the supreme leader, but all the political leadership, and that Pezeshkian himself was injured in the Israeli attempted decapitation strike, this Operation Red Wedding, with reference to the George R. Martin fantasy book that was attacked. So there are reasons, but this isn't obvious, and it's kind of the same thing. You're right with that story about immediately after the aftermath of the first phase, at least, of the 12-day war, there emerged these stories online that Iran was ditching their existing deal, which they themselves had not followed through on, to purchase the Su-35s from Russia for the J-10s. And at the time, my response to that was, well, I mean, I don't see any sources. I don't see anyone in Russia or Iran saying that definitively. But I mean, if it was true, if Iran got, I mean, I actually, I said at the time, I think actually they need a lot more work on air defense and counterintelligence, but it's all parts. If they get a good air force, over a period, because they don't happen overnight, of course, but I don't care whether they get the J-10. I don't care if they get their air defense systems from Russia, from China, whoever, as long as it defends Iran. That's what I care about, right?
Right.
In those terms, right? I want the Iranian, and to some extent, yeah. I mean, of course, you always want your own military-industrial complex to benefit and everything, blah, blah, blah. But, we're thinking here in geopolitical terms, right? And for both Russia and China, the continuance of the government in Iran and preventing Western regime change there is the priority. So whether Russia gets the deal or Iran, but there was no sources for any of that. And I'm like, that kind of sniffs of sowing distrust. And, you never know. Iran.
Ooh, come back to me, Mark. Come back.
It's theocratic dictatorship.
Right.
Yeah. Iran is often depicted as a theocratic dictatorship, right? Caricatured in Western media. But they honestly have a bewilderingly complex political system with checks and balances, the likes of which you can't believe. Lots of political infighting, right? Lots of factions, lots of, we want to improve relations with the rest. We want better relations with Russia. No, we want relations with China. There's a lot of that going on in Iran all the time. And little things like this can, sometimes drive, be the butterfly wings that drive larger mistrust. They really can be. And so that's what I see here is an active campaign to sow mistrust between Russia and Iran further, because that is to the West's greatest benefit. The thing that they fear most is a strong, trusting alliance between Russia and Iran, or between, I should say, a tripartite between Russia and China and Iran.
Why hasn't Russia come out and been more vocal about, yes, Iran is a sovereign state. If they want to enrich uranium, they can do it. Why is the U.S. involved? Is it because Russia wanted to make their own?
They have said all of those things. While Israel was attacking Iran, right? They said all of those things. That Iran is a signatory of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. That they have the right to a civilian nuclear program and to enrich uranium under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty's terms and wider international law, and that Russia is the country building some of their nuclear reactors, Bushehr, and they're now working on the expansion of Bushehr, right? So, I mean, Russia has been, it's just not been reported in the way, right? That's not a sexy thing for Russia to be reported to say that. But Russian officials of all stripes have said those things, right? That Iran does have that right. You know, that, hey, they actually, you know, told Israel, don't you dare hit our guys in Bushehr. In fact, we're probably going to send some more there. Don't you dare do that, right? And you know, that's where it was. And if you'll notice that when things were about to break one way or the other, and then Donald Trump eventually declared victory and flew away, it was to Moscow that Aragchi was making an emergency trip to speak to Putin, right? Not to Beijing.
Yes, that's true. That's true. That's true. We don't know what they said in that conversation, but that's true.
No, we don't. We have no idea what they said in that conversation. But we do know that Putin just a day or two before was saying that, you know, like, we want to help them, but, you know, they're a hard country to help sometimes. I mean, that's literally the way he put it. Right? You know, they've got their pride, they've got their sovereignty, their independence. You know, they're hard to help sometimes. And he was obviously a little ticked, you know, from some of the same things that you and I certainly have both dealt with online. Why Russia doesn't do more to defend Iran, right? I'm like, well, first of all, okay, so we only know, you know, hints and suggestions from Putin and others that Russia offered a mutual defense treaty. But I will tell you right now that Russia saved Iran. Russia.
Did they? Explain. You got to explain that. Explain that.
Because in the conflict in Ukraine that the U.S.'s blitzed through their inventory of air defense missiles, of PAC-3 interceptors for the Patriot. It just blew through those, handing them off to Ukraine. And then a bit more, of course, with the Houthis and everything. And the U.S. could not continue this war. I mean, much less Israel. But
Israel, I see.
Right? That's why they had to ask for a ceasefire, right? Because they could not defend Israel from Iranian missiles. And they could not defend their own military bases, as post facto, some of the details have come forward of that. Yeah, it looks like Iranian missiles not only hit those bases, but took out some important radar and reconnaissance objects. They couldn't. Yeah. Why? Because they had exhausted their air defense inventories nearly completely already in Ukraine, right? And that their production capacity couldn't ramp up. So yes, that is a contextual, you know, Russia saved Iran. But it is also very true, because if they had those air defense inventories, I seriously do not think that Trump would have reversed that, you know, why not regime change in Iran, make Iran great again within such a short time. Yeah. You go after one, you expose yourself to the other three. That is, even though Russia and coordination, cooperation, and alliance, frankly, that they should be, even the level that they are now, makes it very hard for the hegemon to move against any one of the three without exposing themselves in one way or another to the other two, right? For instance, if bone-crushing sanctions, right, meaning tariffs against China and India to try to force them to stop buying Russian oil, right? You want to stop Russia's, you know, war coffers, right? You know, their oil revenue. But then you open yourself to another all-new trade war with China just after you sanction the other, and you threaten your geopolitical relationship with India, which you've been trying to coax into being proxies against China. It's all it all rolls together. You can't go against any one of the three without exposing yourself and whether. And Kellogg said this quite openly recently. It was just over a month ago in an interview. He said that once, this is the new geopolitical reality, he said, once we could deal with Russia and China and Iran and North Korea separately, but now we can't do that because they're all coordinating with each other. And he was saying that in the context of why now U.S. needs to shuffle the burden of conflict with Russia off on Europe. And he's talking division of labor and so forth there. But it works the same way, of course, for Iran. And you know, that's your own problem by going after all of these countries at the same time instead of doing the great power balancing of realist international relations theory, right? Where you say, well, our primary India is China, so we need to woo Russia and get them on our side. No. The Biden administration was quite clear. It was, I mean, Blinken talked about it openly. It was good to be in concentrated foreign policy opposition to Russia and China and Iran all at the same time. Well, you know, as Biden once said, quite famously, about the idea of Russia turning to China and Iran, right? You know, good luck with that in your senior year, Biden, you dementia. So right? Because you created this situation, because these three countries with very different political systems and religions and cultures and civilizations have been pushed together because of the hubris and overreach of the U.S. hegemon.
You think these people played stiff? You're supposed to be buddies with one while you attack the other.
They never did. I mean, I hate to say how much of my realist, logic is formed by playing these utility maximizing take over the world games. Right. But I did spend a good part of my teenage years playing a lot of them, and I always fall back on that logic. Sorry.
Logic is logic, man. You'd be surprised how much just logic comes into play for this stuff. One last thing before I let you go. This is Trump, and listen to what he says here. This is apparently his new strategy.
I'm going to have a meeting with the Secretary General who's coming in tomorrow, but we basically are going to send
Secretary General of NATO.
Pieces of very sophisticated military, and they're going to pay us 100% for them, and that's the way we want it. And we've been trying to get that again. I don't think Biden ever asked for it. We're in for about $350 billion. Europe is in for $100 billion. That's a lot of money, 100, but they should be in actually for more than us. So as we send equipment, they're going to reimburse us for that equipment. Doesn't that sound good?
He spews so much shit. It's astonishing. He's like a shit spewer machine, like those snowblowers.
All I got to say is, you MAGA suckers. You MAGA suckers.
Yes.
You don't believe that Trump was ever, at the end of the day, going to do anything more. Now it's the sleight of hand. Oh, we're not paying for it, so it's okay. NATO's going to pay for it. Oh, wait a minute. Who's the single biggest contributor to the NATO budget? Oh, yeah, that's the United States. Oh, my bad. But regardless there, right? The war, the West continues the same failed Biden administration policies of arms and sanctions. But sanctions haven't broken the Russian economy yet. In fact, arguably, they've only strengthened it. And when it comes to weapons, what weapons, Donald? What weapons? You got to send them 10 Patriot interceptors? Good. That's air defense for 15 minutes over the skies of Kiev. That didn't really bring anything down anyway. Good luck with that. And they're talking long-range missiles, right? That's what they're talking now. JASSMs, probably, air-launched cruise missiles. What are they going to be launched from? F-16s? The ones that the Ukrainians haven't actually used in any combat operations because their own air defense spokesman says, well, actually, they're vastly outclassed by modern Russian aircraft and air defense. You have to bring those F-16s out of hiding in West Ukraine and Lutsk or wherever Russia has been bombing Lutsk, the airfields there, very heavily with drones in the past week.
Come on.
But fire JASSM, move forward to launch JASSMs. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. You can't sell weapons to NATO that you don't have.
Yes. 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 There's that. When he said that, my first thought was, you don't have the air defense and you don't have the weapons. So what are you really sending?
Biden already emptied the Pentagon cupboard. If there was anything left that could have won the war, Biden would have already sent it.
What's interesting to me in the context of what Trump is saying there is Budanov. So Budanov has come out, did an interview with Bloomberg, and has pointed out the war needs to end by 2025. And I was like, what? What are you talking about?
Meaning to save the regime in Kiev.
Yes.
To save the regime in Kiev. By
and
the
he
end
says
of this,
it's easy to do. And I'm like, what do you mean it's easy to do? Budanov is out of his mind in this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how do we expect this to take place?
Yeah, he was talking specifically meaning the U.S. getting more involved. He said there would have to be a three-way agreement on a ceasefire. You know, he specifically said the U.S. with Russia. And so he's believing that the U.S. could force Russia to a ceasefire on U.S. and Kiev regime terms. Again, good luck with that.
How does he expect that to take place if it hasn't already taken place?
Budanov also at one point said that he would be vacationing in Crimea. So I don't know. I vacation in Crimea. I haven't seen Budanov there. So
effectively take what Budanov's saying with a grain of salt.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Fair enough. So all things being equal, Russia doesn't believe that Trump is going to put through the 500% sanctions, or if he does put through 500%, it's going to damage the U.S. more than it damages Russia.
Then
the war effort.
He's going to damage the entire global economy, including that of his own base. Yes.
So he doesn't believe it, effectively. From this point on, though, Russia is looking for unconditional surrender. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I think that's already been the decision. I mean, there might still be hope that things will turn out otherwise, but increasingly, I think there is the understanding that at this point there is no other option. And I don't know frankly, I don't know that there will ever be an unconditional surrender. I think it will be a fight to the bitter end, and then a nasty, dirty guerrilla war out of Europe after that, which will lead right into the next war, direct war between NATO and Russia a few years down the line.
To be clear, what I mean by unconditional surrender is collapse of the Ukrainian military and capability to fight the war. Mark, you're fantastic. We've covered everything. Thank you for this. I really do appreciate it, man. You be safe. Okay?
Thanks for having me.
And just so the audience will know, Mark Sleboda, International Relations Security Analyst. You can find Mark on Boosty at Realpolitik or The Realpolitik with Mark Sleboda. Even if you just put in his name, it will come up. Definitely check him out. He is fantastic. He gives this is just the taste. And I've said this on more than one occasion. You've been more right about this than pretty much anybody else in the, let's say, international relations explanation circuit. So thank you for this, Mark. You be safe, man.
Thank you.
All right. Mark